Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Alicia, and I work for the Australian National Maritime Museum. Now, a big welcome to all of you joining us today. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters that the Maritime Museum is built on. And today we have got people joining us from all over Australia, which is so exciting. And no matter where you are, if you are on Australian soil or water, you are on the lands of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples. So I would like to thank all elders, past, present and emerging, for caring for country for countless generations. Now, a big welcome to all of you who are coming back from the trivia that we just had, and a big welcome to all of you who are joining for the first time today. It's so wonderful to meet you all today. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. So today you can type your comments and questions to me, either using the Q&A or the chat. It's up to you. You will only see your comments, but I will see everything that comes through. And at the end, I'm going to download a list of every comment that comes through so that I can see all the wonderful things that you are saying today. We have got lots of exciting things and lots of people joining us. So feel free to pop into the chat or the Q&A now and tell me where you're joining from today. And it's also helpful if you can tell us how many people are watching on your screen as well. Now, homeschoolers, I'll ask you to please put your first name at the beginning of each comment. Otherwise, I'm going to accidentally give credit to your parents if they're your Zoom name rather than you for all of your right answers. I also want to say a huge thank you to Virtual Excursions Australia and Inspiring Australia, who have made SciFest possible and have funded this incredible program. So in case you don't know, they're doing sessions just like this all week for Science Week with lots of really amazing topics. So there is so much going on, lots of wonderful things to learn, all about the science of the world around us. So fantastic stuff. All right, big welcome to everybody who's jumping into the chat. I'm just going to pick out a few people because there's lots of us, but again, I do see everything that comes in. We've got people joining us from Malaysia today. Welcome to Peninsula International School. Welcome. We've got Windera State School from Western Queensland. Hello to all of you out there. We've got Hawker College. We've got people from Victoria, from Sydney. We've got me and Dana Primary School, 34W. We've got people from Devonport, Tasmania, Ollie's from Cairns. We've got Auburn 34D, Mascot Public, Rosie and Katie. Lots of people joining in today. So exciting to have you all here. Now, I wish I could say hello to all of you, but we need to get going because we've got a lot to do today. So we're going to pop in and we're going to make a start. So as I mentioned earlier, I work for the Australian National Maritime Museum. We're the Museum of the Sea, otherwise known as the Museum. Now, the sea is a really big topic for our country because we're an island nation surrounded entirely by ocean. And Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have continuing connections to sea country for thousands and thousands of years, and many of the early migrants to Australia arrived here by boat. But how much do we really know all about the waters that surround our ocean? Today, we're going to dive deep and we're going to find out about the wonderful world of our ocean. So we're going to start off with an easy question to get our brains warmed up. Tell me in the Q&A or in the chat, how many oceans are there on Earth? And if you joined our trivia before, this was a little bit of a hint. We had this question before. How many oceans are there on Earth? Oh, we've got a really, really wide range of answers. I can see lots of 7s. I can see lots of 5s. I can see a 42. That's a lot of oceans. I can see 6 or 7. And I can see people like Poppy and Eva have actually said a different answer. I'll let a few more people pop in their answer before I reveal that in fact there is, we have the Pacific Ocean, we have the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Southern or Antarctic Ocean. So in fact, the answer is 1. Yeah, sorry, this is a little bit of a trick question because all of these ocean areas might have different names, but in fact, they are all connected and it is just one ocean. So there are no clear boundaries between any of these areas, and anything that goes into one area can easily make its way to another. And I actually have an example to prove this. So once upon a time, there was a container ship traveling from Hong Kong to America, carrying very important cargo, 28,000 plastic bath toys. Now, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the container ship entered a huge storm, and somehow the container door opened and a big wave hit the ship and it washed all 28,000 bath toys into the sea. Now, plastic in our oceans is a very big problem, which we'll talk about a bit later, but some very clever ocean scientists decided to make the best of a situation, and they started tracking where the bath toys wound up. So here, you can see all of the bath toys travelling all over the world, and they made their way to every corner of the globe. They went to Alaska, to Scotland, to Australia, to Japan, because the ocean currents floated these rubber ducks all over the globe. And this was only possible because Earth has one ocean, even if it has different names. So we have one ocean, but is it all the same? So tell me in the Q&A or the chat, is the ocean in Melbourne the same as the ocean in Brisbane? So you can tell me just a yes or a no, but if you think it's different, give me an example of something that might be different. And a big thank you to Penelope for the laugh crying emoji at my little rubber ducks. Thank you. I think they're pretty cute moving around the screen like that. We have got lots and lots of different answers. I'm seeing maybe even a 50-50 split. I think about half of us think that, yes, the ocean is the same, and half of us think that it is different. So I love this answer from Jenny that the temperature might be different. Absolutely, Jenny. So if we think about swimming in the ocean, you are automatically going to think that swimming in the ocean in Melbourne is a very different experience to swimming in the ocean in Brisbane. People in Hobart might not want to go swimming quite as much as people in Sydney because it's much warmer in Sydney. In Darwin, it's even warmer still, but people swim in the ocean a lot less. And that's because there are different living things in that part of the ocean, like crocodiles and jellyfish, that make it more dangerous. So if you live near the beach, you might know that there are some spots that are better for swimming, other spots that are better for snorkeling, and other spots that are better for surfing. So all over the world, we've got one ocean, but it is different everywhere. So the world has one ocean, but how much of the world is ocean? Type your answers into the Q&A. Do you think that 10% of the world's Earth's surface is covered by ocean? Is it 30% or is it 70%? Well, let's have a look. I can see Rosie has said 70%, Arch has said 70%, Jet has said 70%, so have Eva and Poppy. And I have to say, Ryan, you are absolutely correct. It is, in fact, 70%. And that is well over half of this planet's surface. And that's just the surface of the ocean. Some parts of the ocean are so deep that humans have rarely, if ever, explored there. And much of the ocean is completely unexplored by humans. And this fact reminds me of a quote that's been attributed to the science fiction author Arthur Clarke, who said, "How inappropriate to call this planet Earth when clearly it is ocean." And he really has a point, because there is significantly more ocean than there is Earth. Even though we as humans predominantly live on the 30% that is land, without the ocean, our planet would not be habitable. In fact, the ocean shapes the land, and I mean this very literally. Ocean currents can change the shape of coastlines, eroding some places and redistributing sand and rocks to others, and changes in sea levels affect how much land is accessible above the water, and many sedimentary rocks that we think of as being part of the land actually originated from under the sea. So why is the ocean so important? Tell me your answers, first of all, in the Q&A and the chat. I'm curious to see what you all think. Why is the ocean important? Let's have a look. Oh, we've got really fantastic answers coming in here. Having said because it gives us food and it helps us survive. Absolutely. We've got the animals have somewhere to live. Definitely. We've got food chains. We need water to survive. Ocean is one of our food sources. We've got the ocean provides the main food chain and supports all life on sea and on land. Stephanie says it's home to many species. Absolutely. Oh, so many great answers. Absolutely. There are so many answers to this question. We could be here all day and all night. But I have done the very hard job of choosing my top 5 reasons why the ocean is so important. So let's have a look if your answer lines up with one of mine or if it's an extra bonus one. So my number one, well, not my number one, but my first reason that oceans are so important is because the ocean supports a great diversity of life and ecosystems. So these beautiful creatures on the screen are 2 humpback whales and 1 human scuba diver. But humpback whales live in the ocean and can be found almost all over the world. Can anyone tell me in the Q&A, what do humpback whales eat? What do we think? Oh, excellent. We've got lots of people saying plankton, krill, small fish. You are all absolutely correct. That is exactly right. These are all the things that whales eat, and all of these creatures also only live in the ocean. If you live near the east or the west coast of Australia, you might have even seen humpback whales passing by at particular times of year, and that's because humpback whales have an annual migration. So in the southern hemisphere summer, they live in the Antarctic waters down south, where there's huge amounts of krill for them to eat. But when it starts to get colder during the winter, the whales start to move northward. So they're seeking some warmer weather. It's a little bit like how we might travel somewhere warmer for a summer holiday. But the point is that all living things depend on their environment to survive. Things like temperature and the availability of food influence the places that animals live in. And living things can adapt over time, but this is something that happens very slowly. So if the conditions of an environment change too quickly, the animal may not have time to adjust. Every single sea creature, from microscopic plankton to the enormous whales who eat the plankton, are specifically adapted to the unique conditions of their ocean environment, and they can't survive anywhere else. So tell me in the Q&A your favourite living things that you can only find in the ocean. While we're doing that, I'm going to move on to reason number 2, why oceans are important. And that's because without the ocean, there is no rain. The water cycle means that all of Earth's water is connected. Salt water is evaporated from the ocean and comes back down as freshwater rain, which then makes its way back into the ocean. We need fresh water to grow food. We need to drink water to survive. And in other words, as human beings, we need the ocean to be able to live. Reason number 3, the ocean creates the oxygen that we breathe. Plant life such as seaweed and phytoplankton produce so much oxygen it allowed all other life to develop on Earth. And the ocean continues to provide water, oxygen, and nutrients needed for life on Earth to exist. Reason number 4, the ocean has an enormous impact on worldwide temperatures. And this is because the ocean absorbs and stores carbon dioxide and methane. Without the ocean, this planet would be too hot for any life to survive. So the changes in the ocean can have a big influence on the weather and climate on Earth. And reason number 5, the ocean is an important part of human culture and economies. If you buy something from overseas, chances are it will travel to you by ship because that's much cheaper than it traveling by plane. Fishing is one of the biggest economies in the entire world and provides food for a hungry population of humans. So that is my top 5 reasons why the ocean is important. But of course, as you guys have already seen in your comments, there are many, many, many more. Now, although the ocean is fundamental to the existence of all life on Earth, it faces some pretty major problems that you can help to fix. So who can tell me in the chat or the Q&A, what does the word pollution mean? Give me a definition for the word pollution. Let's see what we've got. All right, so Charlotte says that it's throwing rubbish in the ocean. Yeah, not a good thing, is it, Charlotte? But you're exactly right. Hillside think that it's rubbish, litter, poisoned water. Absolutely, Hillside. You've got so many good examples. Luella says littering in the ocean, it's rubbish that builds up. Absolutely. Rosie says to contaminate something. Absolutely. What other beautiful answers have we got in there? Evelyn has got pollution is the interaction of harmful materials into the environment. That's a great definition. Ayana says something poisonous or toxic where it doesn't belong. Absolutely right. Arch says it's changing the environment and making it worse. Absolutely. You guys know exactly what we're talking about here. These are all completely correct. Oops. Bit of a spoiler alert there, but you're exactly correct. So pollution is any substance that doesn't belong in the environment and causes harm. So anything that doesn't naturally occur in the ocean and causes harm or is poisonous is marine pollution. Now, unfortunately, marine pollution is increasing. Most marine pollution is rubbish or chemical waste runoff that comes from land. Chemicals, particles, and waste from industrial and agricultural sources and houses make up 80% of all marine pollution. One of the biggest sources of marine pollution is plastic. Now, unfortunately, the rubber ducks that we talked about earlier are not the only plastics that have wound up in the ocean. So this video is of some water in Sydney Harbour. So tell me in the Q&A what sorts of plastic you can spot in this video. Some examples of the plastic that is floating around in our beautiful Sydney Harbour. Tell me what you can see. Here are spotted containers, sayonara spotted food wrappers, Jet saw some straws. I just saw chip packets, some fishing net. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you, the seaweed and the leaves and the bark, they're all natural materials. So they're not pollution, they're just normally in there. But yeah, we've seen a Mentos wrapper. We saw some lolly snakes, some can wrappers. So we've got cups, chip packets, bottles, lids, all sorts of things. Yeah, and somebody mentioned a fishing net as well. So often they can get tangled around a fish or something like that, and they can get cut off and end up as plastic because the ropes are made of plastic. Yeah, so very well spotted, everybody, but very sad answers, aren't they? So tell me now in the Q&A, how long do you think it takes a plastic straw to decompose? So tell me in the Q&A, what do you think? How long does it take a plastic straw to decompose? Oh, we've got lots of really different answers coming through in the chat now. So we've got Caitlin thinks it takes 10 years. Caitlin, I hate to break it to you, but it takes a lot more than 10 years, unfortunately. Connor thinks it might be 32 years. Connor, that's a very long time. In fact, it's longer than that, sadly. Yeah, we've got lots of people coming up. Katie thinks it takes 2 years. I wish it was only 2 years, Katie, but it's terrible. It's actually longer than that. In fact, it's about 200 years. And it gets worse. A plastic water bottle takes 450 years to biodegrade. A plastic toothbrush takes 500 years. Now, plastic was only invented in 1869, which was 155 years ago. And that means Every single plastic straw, water bottle, or toothbrush that has ever been made still exists. Plastic is everywhere in our lives, from the big important things like the chairs you might be sitting on right now, to the tiny little soy sauce fish that you get with your sushi. And so often we use plastic without even thinking about it. But it turns out that something that we might use for a few minutes might become part of Earth for tens or hundreds of years. Some of this plastic might even wash into the ocean and cause major problems for marine life. When pieces of plastic enter the ocean, the sun's UV rays break down larger plastics. During this process, chemicals leak into the environment. And over time, larger pieces of plastics can become worn down to become microplastics. As they degrade, large plastics become, like you see here, microplastics, which are 5 millimeters or smaller. And recent studies have even found plastic particles that are even tinier, called nanoplastic. Microplastics are found at the greatest depths of the ocean, at the top of the tallest mountains, in the air that we breathe. They are found in all of Earth's environments, and they've even been found inside sea creatures such as whales, dolphins, and turtles, and even inside humans. However, there is good news. People are more aware of this problem now than ever, and there are many people working to solve the plastic pollution problem. We've got some companies who are using this as a design challenge to create new materials from natural or biodegradable sources to replace plastic versions. We've got other businesses are recycling found rubbish back into other plastic products so that they can get a second life. We have community groups and researchers who stage targeted cleanup crews to clean beaches and fish waste out of the ocean. And we have more strict policies for industry and agricultural processes that help stop or slow excess waste entering waterways. So lots of good things. But I want to turn it over to you. I want you to come up with some examples and tell me, what can we do to reduce plastic waste in the ocean? So I'm going to give you a minute to get all of your answers in, and we're going to see what everybody says. What can we do to reduce plastic waste in the ocean? Okie dokie. Now I'm going to start reading out some of these answers. If you're still discussing, you can turn the volume down until I go to the next slide if you're still having a good discussion. But I want to share some of these incredible ideas that are coming through from everybody. So we have got Stephanie has suggested that we replace plastic with biodegradable products, which I think is a really fantastic suggestion. So instead of having something that's going to stay around for over 200 years, you can have something that's going to decompose naturally much faster. So that's a great idea. We've got this one here. Oh, a similar vein, replace the materials with plant-based materials. So very similar, excellent. We've got take 3, leaving the beach cleaner when you arrived. I love that from Luella. That's exactly right. So if you go to the beach, have a look around you, and if there's any rubbish that you see around you, you can just pick it up and put it safely into a bin, because if not, the tide might come in and that rubbish might be taken out into the ocean to become part of the plastic problem. So really great to clean up your beach whenever you're there. Kira's also suggested national cleanup days. Absolutely. So days like Clean Up Australia Day are a really fantastic reminder for all of us to get out there and keep things clean. And it's doesn't have to be a special day. We can do it anytime we're out and about and anytime we see some rubbish. Okay, so we've got Lara has suggested try to repurpose the plastic and melt it into make something new. Absolutely. So that means that instead of creating new plastic for a new product, you can take some of the old plastic that's not being used anymore and you can repurpose it to stop that new plastic from being made. That's great. We've got Angeline suggests enforce a law that makes it illegal to litter. Yeah, absolutely. So it is actually illegal to litter in Australia. And I think people don't really understand how important it is, because no matter where you are, if you're littering, because water is all connected, your litter can get washed down into a drain, and that drain can then wind its way all the way to the ocean, even if you live hundreds of kilometres away. So litter anywhere can wind up being a plastic problem for our oceans. Connor suggests taking the plastic and turning it into a trash can. There we go. Look at that. 2 birds with 1 stone, Connor. That's really great inventive thinking, because you're going to then be able to use that for further rubbish as well. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that these are really, really great suggestions that are so varied that are coming in. Yeah, I'm really glad you're all thinking about this so carefully. Just want to share one last one from Penelope. To make sure your rubbish actually lands in the bin and not just near it. And that's so important, because, you know, when you're busy, it can be really easy to just sort of try and put it in a bin, and you don't look at it twice and you don't realise that it hasn't gone in the bin, it's gone to the side. But that just means that the wind can pick it up and take it away, or the rain can come down and wash it into the drains and cause a really big problem. So if we all just be a little bit more mindful of all of these things, we can actually help to protect our oceans. So they are amazing answers, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing them, and I hope you continue to have these discussions. But I want to actually show you some of the solutions that the Maritime Museum is involved in. And these are some really big ideas, so I hope that you find them inspiring. So first of all is the sea bin. So I think Jet mentioned something about bins in the sea. This is exactly that, Jet, so well done. The sea bin was invented by 2 surfers who were really horrified at the amount of rubbish they saw at the beach when they were surfing overseas. And they came back to Australia and they thought, well, if we can have a rubbish bin for the land, why can't we just put a bin into the sea? So they designed this invention that would remove plastic from our harbours and waterways. So the sea bin skims the surface and it sucks in water to remove plastics, microplastics, fuel, oil, and other harmful contaminants. And each sea bin can contain 20 kilograms of rubbish, and they get emptied every single day. So we have 3 sea bins here at the Maritime Museum and many more around Sydney Harbour. So here are some examples of some of the stuff that we're actually finding in the sea bins. So you can see that there's little bits of food wrappers, a bit of balloon, an elastic band, all of these things that are part of daily life that wind up being plastic pollution in our ocean. The team at CBN are not just removing the plastic from the water, but they're also recording everything that they find and actually creating a set of data that they can give to the government to help influence change and to help stop this plastic from getting into the ocean. Sometimes it might be that there's a lot of food packaging from a particular area, or it might be that plastic parking tickets are actually getting into the sea bin. So CBin are taking the plastic out, but they're also using that data to have an even wider impact. And the other group of people I really want to tell you about is people living in the Torres Strait Islands who are taking plastic fishing nets out of the ocean. So the Arab people of the Torres Strait Islands have an amazing connection to the ocean and all the creatures living there. And they've cared for sea country for countless generations. And you can see these pictures here are from the Torres Strait Islands. And you can already see how important the ocean is for people living here. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful place. Now, one of the big challenges for this area are ghost nets. So these are fishing nets on lines that have been discarded or lost, and they've been left to float around the ocean. So I want you to tell me, what is a fish net designed to do? Tell me your answers in the chat or the Q&A. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people with the exact same answer. A fishnet's job is to catch fish. Um, so when these ghost nets float around in the ocean, not only are they gradually breaking down into dangerous microplastics, but even before that, they're trapping and accidentally catching sea creatures that they find along the way. So fish, turtles, sharks, who are all minding their own business in their own habitat, who they're not meant to be caught, but these floating ghost nets are catching them anyway. So the good news is that there are people who are finding these ghost nets, removing them from the water, washing them, and turning them into beautiful sculptures of sea creatures that are impacted. So these artworks help tell us about the beautiful creatures that live in the Torres Strait, including turtles and fish and coral reefs. And all of these creatures are impacted negatively. They're all hurt by the plastic pollution. So not only can we actively reduce our use of plastic, but we can also reduce the plastic ending up in our oceans. We can share that message like the people do at Seabin and like the Arab Ghost Net artists and like I'm talking to you today, so that as a community, we can all work together to help reduce the plastic problem. So tell me in the Q&A chat. Oh, I love seeing all these people responding as well to all of the amazing suggestions as well. So tell me, what is one thing that you've learned today? Tell me in the Q&A one thing that you have learned about our oceans today. Okie dokie. So Kira has learned that there is only one ocean. Absolutely. And that's such an important thing to remember. Even though the ocean have different names in different parts of the world, it's all connected. And anything that goes into one area can find its way to any other area. It's one ocean. And if anything happens to it, there is no replacement. So always really, really important to know that. We've also got, sorry, I've got to scroll up. There's so many comments from people sharing all of their answers. It's absolutely amazing. We've got, Connor's learned to never put trash in the water. Absolutely. It causes a way bigger problem down the line. So it's always really important to make sure that your rubbish is securely in a bin. Even if it's just to the side of the bin, it can wind up getting into the ocean anyway. So that's really good. We've got Caitlin's learnt about the sea bins. Absolutely. And I think there was a message from Jet before saying, I see a sea bin. Absolutely. Come to the Maritime Museum. You'll see a few sea bins, and they're really fantastic inventions and really helpful at not just removing the rubbish from the environment, but also creating data that can be used to show people how much plastic is actually winding up in the oceans and how big a problem it is. So really, really clever. I should mention we've got the Ocean Health Lab here at the Maritime Museum as well, which is run by Seabin. And you can come in and you can find out all about their work and actually see all of the contents of a sea bin that they empty out and study every day. So it is very, very cool. So Lara learnt how long plastic can stay in our environment for. Yeah, it's a really, really shocking and surprising thing. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying, really, when you find out how long that all of the plastic that's ever invented still exists. It's awful. Hillside learnt that as well, that plastic takes 200 years plus to decompose. Absolutely. So it really puts into perspective, if you're just grabbing a plastic fork or something, maybe you don't even intend on using it. But we can just, say, oh, no, thank you. Just be polite. And if you don't need it, you can just bring your own instead, so that you don't have to have this item that then is going to take hundreds of years to decompose. We've got Gracie has learnt that the ocean is impacted so much by what we do and that we need to look after it. I think that's really, if I could ask anybody to have a takeaway from today, I think that that's what I would ask for. I think that's a really fantastic thing that you've taken away from that, Gracie. And I hope that a lot of people are sharing that with you today as well, because Yeah, our ocean is really important. We can only live because of our ocean. It makes all of our lives possible, but it also gives us responsibilities. We need to give back to the ocean and to keep it a healthy place so that we can actually make sure that it continues. So we've got Rebecca learned that 70% of Earth is water. So that is fantastic. Absolutely right. What are we doing calling it Earth? It's very clearly, this planet should really be called ocean. It's mostly ocean. Absolutely. I think that's a great quote too that we looked at before as well. James learned all about pollution. Fantastic. That is really, really great. I love that. Okay. So let me have another question for you. So that's what we've learned today. Can you tell me one thing that you're going to do to help protect the ocean? Maybe in the next week, one thing that you are going to do that's going to help our ocean. Tell me in the Q&A or the chat. All righty. So Matthias is going to pick up more rubbish. Fantastic. That's a really easy way to help our oceans is you can just pick up some rubbish that you see maybe as you're going for a walk, or maybe you're, if you're down by the beach, if you're just in the school playground, just pick up a few bits of rubbish. It doesn't have to be a punishment. It can just be a thing that you do just to help out. I think that's a really fantastic idea, Matthias. Tell me if you're going to join Matthias in starting to pick up some more rubbish as well. Dominic says to not use one-use plastic. Yeah, so if we can try and reduce our single-use plastic, that's really helpful, because if we don't need to use it, then it doesn't wind up having to go to landfill for hundreds of years. So that's a really great takeaway as well. I love that, Dominic. McKay is going to go down to the beach and collect some rubbish to prevent pollution. Fantastic. I think that that's a really, really great idea, and that's a really helpful solution as well. Connor's going to take the trash out of the water. Fantastic. We love that, Connor. Yeah, absolutely. Khalees is going to use metal or reusable forks. That's a really fantastic one too. And Lara agrees, reduce the plastic when eating, like takeaway forks, definitely. And Molly says, try to recycle as much as possible and think twice before using or buying any plastic. That is fantastic. I love that. Finley's going to pick up rubbish when they see it on the floor. That's fantastic, Finley. Excellent. You keep your eye out and get as much rubbish as you can put away. And Khalees agrees here, pick up rubbish and put it in the bin, even if it's not yours. Absolutely. We can all help out and put it all in there. Georgia says double check to make sure the rubbish goes in the bin. Absolutely. And Celine says support others to pick up after themselves. Fantastic. These are really great answers, everybody. We've also got a few people who are going to start some petitions, which is really fantastic, to sort of help everybody else understand about the importance of our oceans and how we can protect them. That's really, really clever. So April's going to start a petition to get more cigarette bins on the side of bins. Excellent. So we can get make sure that cigarette butts aren't going into the ocean when it rains. Very clever. Yeah, great answers, everybody. These are so beautiful, and I can't wait to read through every single comment that you guys have put in, and all of your brilliant ideas. Yeah, you've just been such a fantastic group, and thank you for sharing this experience with me today. We are almost out of time, but before we go, I want to say a big thank you to all of you for bringing so many wonderful ideas today, and so for committing yourselves to helping our oceans in any way that you can. So teachers and homeschool educators, so the wonderful Karen from VEA is going to send through an email with some links to all of the other amazing SciFest sessions that they are hosting for the rest of the week. Which is so fantastic. There's so many speakers on different topics, all about species survival and sustainability. So it's really, they're offering some really great stuff. So I would definitely check that out. The Maritime Museum, I'm also going to be running a few Book Week sessions next week. So we've got authors like Jackie French, Jess McGecken, and Dr. Vanessa Perotta, who is actually an expert whale scientist. So yeah, they're going to be reading some science books with us for Book Week. And then I'm also going to be doing some creative writing workshops as well that are all related to the sea. So that's going to be lots of fun. So Kara will include links to that in the email if you want to come along and join them as well. I'll also let you know that if you're ever in Sydney, come and visit us at the Maritime Museum. So you can see the GhostNet artworks for yourself. We've got this huge display, which is really beautiful. You can also see the CBN Ocean Health Lab and climb aboard some boats as well while you're here. So I hope that you're all feeling really inspired to protect our wonderful planet, which we all know should always be referred to as ocean instead of Earth. And finally, a big thank you again to Virtual Excursions Australia and to Inspiring Australia for making this wonderful program of events for SciFest possible. It's been so wonderful to connect with you all, and I look forward to seeing you at another virtual excursion in the future. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.